All right, so once again, that was just some basic terms and timelines to give you an idea of what kind of schedule and what type of things are permissible for coaches. But last we're going to move into essentially trying to give a checklist for players and parents. Okay, and so for our CVCA players, this is authored very specifically to even some expectations about how we want to coach you, how we would advise you to go about this process as a player. This certainly can be something that's general guidance for any athlete in any sport. If I was coaching some other sports, I'd probably give some very similar advice with this. But this is, like I said, especially if you play here at CVCA, it's some things that we even expect that if you're fortunate enough to have a chance to be part of the 6% and go through this process, some things you want to keep in mind even year by year. And then parents will finish up with a checklist for you as well. All right, so number one, it's your freshman year. You have a goal of playing college football. Before I even talk to you about the field, all right, you have got to get off to a great start academically. All right, a great start. All right, any guidance counselor, principal, teacher worth their medal will tell you that if you dig a hole for yourself as a freshman, like that is a really hard hole to climb out of. And so you've got to make every effort to get off to a great start. Right, so this cannot be me being a immature, typical freshman who says, hey, it's high school, I'm meeting new friends. If I don't get off to a great start this first semester, oh well. No, if you have a goal of playing college football, like this is actually a vital time. You can really make yourself easier to recruit, or harder to recruit, or impossible to recruit. Based on your start in high school. All right. And some of that's just the mathematics of credits and GPA and weights and things like that. But you've got to get off to a great start academically. So what we've linked out for you in the presentation is there are different guidelines and requirements when it comes to academic eligibility for Division I football versus Division II. They're very similar, but there are some nuances. And so those items there, you can click here. I'll click on one of them. Okay, so Division I academic standards. Okay, this is stuff to keep in mind, even when it comes to scheduling. So it's not just about how you perform in your classes. Okay, but making sure that you have these core course credits in the following areas, right? And they tell you, so hey, if you're going to be a Division I football player, all right, you need to have 4 years of credit in English to be eligible to play Division I football. Right, so it doesn't matter how much you like English or whether that's your favorite subject or not. All right, that's a 4-year requirement. All right, you can see with math, Algebra 1 or higher, 3 years worth. All right, and then et cetera. And so these links are here. You can study these out. These are all items I would say and tell you as a CVCA football player, right, that if you're meeting some of the graduation requirements and some of the things we require here at CVCA, you're going to be in line to meet up to some of these, base NCAA core course credits. But these are things to talk to your guidance counselor about. All right, if it's a goal of yours to play college football, all right, and you say, hey, my dream's to get a scholarship, print this thing off, take it into your meeting with your guidance counselor. Say, hey, this is a dream of mine, this is a goal of mine. I want to make sure with my scheduling that, there's no drop balls, that there's not something missing, when it comes to NCAA requirements. Okay, and you can see here they give a core course GPA. That's not your overall, it's your GPA on those core courses. Okay, and so that's important to understand. But they give a minimum there. I'm going to tell you, if you have a 2.3 core course GPA, okay, you will be very hard to recruit at the Division I level. I know this is listed as their bare minimum, okay, but a Division I college football coach that has essentially hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of scholarship money to hand out, and they're looking for the best of the best, You got a great film. You got a 2.3 GPA. It's going to be very hard to be recruited. All right, I'm going to tell you that. Now, they have a breakdown down here as far as, maybe there's some cases where a Division I school takes on a guy and, redshirts him academically because they believe in him that much as an athlete and his character. Maybe he just struggled in school. Like, that can happen, but it is very rare, guys. It is very rare. All right, it's not something to make any kind of plans on, I'll tell you that. All right, and so the bottom line is, like, if we come back to what our core advice was to you on this stuff, is get off to a great start academically, all right, because you'll make yourself more easily recruitable. Second on this list is you need to lift, you need to sprint, you need to play football, play other sports, be a great teammate. All right, these are things that are tremendously valuable when it comes to you developing into the type of player that can play collegiately. These are all things you're going to be doing collegiately. And these are all things, honestly, that college coaches ask about. Okay, you guys know at CVCA, our off-season point system and attendance, all that's linked out on our social media accounts. And I've had those conversations with college coaches. They see that and say, well, hey, let me take a look at, player A. And, wow, yeah, I look at your off-season points stuff, and it seemed like he wasn't there much. Were there attendance issues when it came to lifting, when it came to speed school? And gentlemen, what I'll tell you is we are honest with football college coaches, right? We are honest with them, right? We're not going to fudge things. We're not going to make things up about you. We're going to tell them the truth. And so the goal for you should be is that when we tell the truth to these coaches, particularly when they ask these things, is that we have great truths to share, right? And so there's a lot that goes into this, so don't quickly go past this second item, right? You're lifting, you're sprinting, you're playing football, maybe playing another sport, being a great teammate. Like, those are things that are a great foundation for you, just to be the best that you can be, to worship God through all your efforts if you're taking this serious. Okay, but these are also things that could play a factor in how easily recruitable you are, right? And some of these things can make a difference. And I've seen it before, right? Coming down to a single scholarship, maybe to give out to 2 or 3 different players, and it's this type of stuff that it came down to, right? Everybody had the same type of film, everybody had the same measurables, but when it came to these feedbacks from the high school coach, right? We want to give that final scholarship to a guy that we know is going to do all the things that he's supposed to do. Okay, and so if you're not doing that in high school, it's not like all of a sudden a college coach is going to expect you to flip the switch and do it in college. All right, you need to build a resume, and you're building a reputation from the minute you step into the high school program as a freshman even. All right, and so that list there is very important. All right, and then the third thing here is, if you're a freshman, and key thing is if you're playing regularly on varsity, all right, if that's happening, well, then you have varsity film. All right, and so you need to be creating, huddle highlights as you go. You can use those position-specific checklists to make sure you're putting the right type of things on. And here's the thing, fellas, you may look at that checklist and you only have 2 or 3 categories that you feel like you can check the box. That's fine. All right, put those on there. All right, you need to make sure that they're good plays and that they meet some of those descriptions. And the bottom line, especially if you're doing this as a young player, the idea is, you're going to develop and maybe be able to fulfill the rest of that list and keep some of that going. All right, and so if you're a freshman, these are some of those basics that you want to be able to check these boxes off. And if you're a freshman that you're not playing regularly on varsity, that's fine. Okay, that's the norm, fellas. That's the norm. That doesn't mean all of a sudden you're not recruitable or something if this is a goal. But if you're not quite on varsity at that point, you need to be developing at the junior varsity level and be able to have this same testimony I was talking about be true of you, right? That you're getting off to a good start academically, that even if it's as a JV player, all right, I'm lifting, I'm sprinting, I'm playing football to the best of my ability, I'm being a great teammate. Because if you develop into a college player that can be recruited, You want those things to be true of you for your whole career. Sophomores, you can see at the top, once again, try to make sure your GPA is as high as possible. Once again, if you're playing regularly on varsity, you need to be creating huddle highlights as you go, using those checklists by position. Also, you can ask for our help as well. You also need to start preparing for the ACT or SAT. All right, there's prep courses for those. Those are even offered here at CVCA. But as a sophomore, you need to start thinking about those tests and prepping for those. As a sophomore, that needs to be on your radar and getting checked off. As a sophomore, you could attend a few college camps or showcases, see how you compare to others that are being recruited. I've had players do this where it's like, hey, I'm going to sign up and go to a college camp, meaning like that college's camp that they put on. I'm going to go to a Division III school camp. I'm going to go to a Division II, and I'm going to go to a Division I, because I just want to see how I compare, even as a young player, to some of these other players that are being recruited. All right, so if I'm a sophomore and I go to a Division II college camp, I'm going to get coached up by college coaches. I'll get better as a player. But I can also pay attention to, some of the other sophomores, some of the other juniors, some of the other rising seniors that are around me at that camp, to get some assessment about, okay, where am I at in this process? Where's my size? Where's my speed? What do I need to get better at as a player? So sophomore year, that can be definitely a thing to do. And once again, you could do that whether you're a full-time varsity player yet, or you're still developing and climbing into that goal. Sophomore year is not a bad year if you wanted to try a couple of those things out. You also could go to college websites, fill out their online football prospect questionnaire. Almost every college, if you go to their football website, you might have to click around through their menu a little bit, but there are questionnaires on there where if you take the time to fill that information out, it's probably going to get submitted directly to a recruiting coach, a recruiting coordinator, an assistant coach, etc. within the program. And so those are just a really simple, direct way to make sure that your name and your information, that's a respectable way for an athlete to make contact with a college coach. All right, much more effective to do this than to do some poorly written social media post or trying to tag a coach or something like that. Highly recommend these online questionnaires, particularly at the FCS down to the Division III level. It is a great option. Okay, so juniors, you'll see some of this list at the top is the same in regards to your grades. Okay, am I a regular varsity player? I need varsity film if I'm going to be recruited to play college football. If that's true of you, be creating those as you go. Junior years where you take some of these standardized tests, feel free to take them multiple times. Okay, try to improve your scores. And you want to try to knock that stuff out before your junior year ends. You can continue trying to attend a few college camps and showcases for further exposure. Once again, we highly recommend you focus on an individual college. Okay, sometimes these huge mega camps and showcases that just have hundreds and hundreds of kids, you're not going to get many reps. Whereas if you go to, let's say, University of Toledo's football camp, you're going to get to work with those coaches. They'd have an opportunity to know that you're there. And we can help with that communication too. If you're going to Toledo, making contact with coaches we know at Toledo and saying, hey, this player's going to be at your camp. And that film that you watched maybe and had some interest in this player from their film, they're going to be at your camp on this date. And so we can certainly help you with some of those decisions. But once again, junior year, particularly in the summer, those summer camps that junior year can make a big difference for a lot of guys. And so definitely, once again, we can help you with that. Ask questions if you have them. Could continue filling out the online questionnaires. That would be for schools you didn't already do it for. You don't need to send that multiple times to a college. But you could continue maybe working through some schools that you're interested in, things like that to do that. The last one that's on this list is, and this is particularly true for Division I, Division II athletics, is, if you're going to receive scholarship money to play college football, you do need to be registered with the NCAA's clearinghouse or their eligibility center. All right, so if we click on that link, it'll take you through and show how to make an account, how to send transcripts, and essentially get certified to be, a player that could receive scholarship funds. Is a cost with that, but you'd create an account, and that's something that you do individually and personally. All right, then your senior year, obviously this is where, many students in general are making decisions about college or really working through applications and things of that nature. And so some of the same stuff's there, but you need to fill out a FAFSA form your senior year. Even on the college football recruiting side of that, coaches need to know that, particularly if it's, FCS, Division II, Division III, where it's not like full athletic packages are being put together. All right, they need to know your academics. They know where they assess you as a football player. They also need to know this financial information to see what kind of aid they might be able to get you. And here's the deal. If it's your senior year, and this is, continue to get earlier and earlier, but if it's your senior year and you have not been offered a scholarship by a Power 5 school, let's say, so these are your Big Ten teams, SEC teams, etc. Right? If you've not been offered a scholarship, even if you're a scholarship type of player, like you've received other scholarship offers, let's say, from smaller Division I schools, if it's not happened at this level by this point, it's likely not happening. All right, it's just important to understand that, and that those size of schools, are usually ahead on the calendar on these things, and the multiple signing days, all that has impacted all of this. So, but even mid-major Division I schools, so like Kent State, Akron, FCS schools like Youngstown State, etc. They may continue to evaluate and offer scholarships, at April of the junior year through December of the senior year. So that's, if you're tracking with that, that's all in the same calendar year, right? So if that were this coming year, so 2024, it'd be like April of 2024 through December of 2024. Some of those type of schools that have more scholarship money to be able to give out for athletics, some of that will continue to happen during that time frame, but even these schools are, continuing to get faster and faster with wanting to get these recruiting classes together. So it's just important to understand those timelines and understand that if you're holding on for something, where some of those boundaries lie, right? That even like a Kent State or an Akron, it's very typical. Like, hey, if it's January of my senior year and I've not received a scholarship offer from those guys, like it's likely not happening at that point, very likely. And so this understanding then what your realistic options are from there. And so you can see at the bottom then Division II and Division III schools, many don't do offers until later in the process. And once again, these offers, I'm putting that in air quotes, include financial aid packages that are based on academics, athletics, and then also any of your need-based, type of things. So like when I say Division III and we say offers, this isn't Division III schools giving athletic scholarship offers. It's them offering you a financial aid package with this combination of academics and need to say, okay, here's what we can give you, and this is what it would cost you to go to school here and play football here. Same thing with Division II schools. Once again, they have some athletic money, but that'll vary on the player, right? And so they're going to make you an offer of that combination of factors, and say, here's what it is that it would take to play football here, if that makes sense. Okay, and so this is the senior year. There's a little more detail, but this really, these last three realities as an example, can really help you to, understand what your options are, to understand what's going on, right, or what's not going on. And so as you get into that senior year and you're going to be trying to make some decisions, you'll know a whole lot by December of your senior year about what level of college football is realistic that you have a chance to play. If, once again, you've earned that right on the field, you've earned that right in the classroom, you've got the film, you're recruitable academically, you're fully committed to this thing. A college is convinced, like, hey, he's going to come here and love football and love doing this. But some of those parameters can give you some guidance. All right, parents, for you, this is just one page, of a checklist, if you will. But I've broken this into these three categories. Number one, support. You definitely, certainly, one way you can support this goal, if it's a goal for your son, is to foster study habits at home. Make sure that he's maximizing himself with his learning and his academics. You as a parent can also drive to camps, visits, etc. when those things come up. But that second point there is it's very important to college football coaches. This next one is very important to those when they talk to high school coaches. When they talk to me, they talk to us, they see what we provide with strength and conditioning. All right, when they see what we provide with our whole off-season program, those team workouts. Okay, so those are questions that coaches ask for football specifically. Okay, maybe different in other sports, I don't know, but they're not going to ask, just how much of a gym rat was this guy. They're going to, how much of a gym rat was he at your school? Right? Is he a team guy? Right? Is he working out with the team? You guys have this college level weight room at CVCA that has Big Ten quality equipment. And I see all your programming, I see what you offer. Was this guy a high attendance guy when it came to his opportunities to be there working out with his team? Okay, and so that faithfulness would be a huge deal if this is a goal for your son, not just physically. It's certainly going to develop him physically, but as far as him building a reputation and him building a testimony, that's worthy of being shared with college coaches in a way that's going to make them convinced that, hey, just like he was a team guy at CVCA, he's going to be a team guy at our university. The third point there, and this falls under support for your son, but also, support for the process, is understanding that, your son's recruiting goals are not more important than our team goals. Okay, and this isn't just a statement by me as the head coach at CVCA. This is me looking out for you, trying to support you in helping your son, reach the goal that he has of college football. All right, because this team concept is something that, Urban Meyer is an example. When he was coaching, he was really well known, all right, for wanting to ask these type of questions and trying to dig into, hey, was he working hard trying to help his high school team do the best they could? Or was he so worried about running around to showcases and camps and things like that he missed all of his team stuff, and it was just more of like a selfish pursuit, or was he actually trying to help his high school team win? Excuse me. But those are questions that coaches ask. They want to know, kind of what the motive is, and so that's important for recruiting, and it's important for us too. I mean, I am sharing that in terms of our team goals as well. Like, we're not going to make decisions for our team, as an example. We're not going to make decisions on a game night. We're not going to make decisions on our off season based on your son's recruiting goals, right? Like we're trying to build our team to be the most successful team that we can with the players we have that year, and trying to work their gifts and their skills together in a way that helps our team the best. That's what we're focused on. We're not going to make any of those decisions, just based on a player's recruiting goals. All right, and the last one there, just encourage you in terms of general support for this, is educate yourself on all those components we've reviewed. There's a lot of links there. Take the time to do it. Once you do that, ask more questions as well. This webinar is designed for you to be able to take this in, but certainly ask questions after you have. That second category is just that encouragement, once again, to stay realistic. That's a great way you can support your son. Remember, only 6 out of 100 high school players meet this goal. Beware of those love glasses that Clint Cosgrove mentioned. All right, just accurate assessment of reality, ability, size, speed, grades, etc. Trying to understand right where your son's at when it comes to some of these standards of college football. And then once again, high school recruiting, or college football recruiting of high school players, like that you should not be paying money for that. All right, work with us. Work with the high school coach, not recruiting services. Essentially what we're giving you even in this webinar is the very type of information, the very type of steps and tools that these recruiting services are trying to charge you, $800 to $2,000 with some of the different stories I've heard. So do not spend money on those things. Work through us. A story I like to share is I mentioned Bill Conley at the beginning of this presentation, was the recruiting coordinator at Ohio State. And, back in the day when this was all happening on VHS tapes, when it came to film, Bill had a policy at Ohio State that essentially said, he basically described that Ohio State would receive thousands of VHS tapes of high school players unsolicited every year. Okay, meaning they didn't ask for them. All right, they weren't asking for this film. They were getting them unsolicited. And so in the midst of managing that, and it's Ohio State, and Bill came up with a really wise policy, but also is a very telling policy that connects to what I'm saying here. Is Bill essentially put a policy in place. He said, when it comes to all these tapes that come our way, if it was sent by a high school coach, it was a guaranteed watch. Okay, so thousands of tapes sent unsolicited, but if it was sent from a high school coach, we're going to at least watch it. All right, and I'll be able to tell you that, and sometimes that watch would include maybe just some feedback, even if it was brief, even if it was a player not recruitable at Ohio State. If it was sent from a high school coach, Bill made sure that, the Ohio State Buckeyes were going to give that high school coach the time of day to at least watch that. Why? Because they trust high school coaches. All right, they know these are coaches that, especially in the state of Ohio, that are very committed, right? That are doing this for next to nothing, right? They know that the motivation of a high school coach that's taken the time to help his player get recruited is coming from a great place, all right? And that they can at least trust their motives and what they're trying to do, in a sense, to have the respect to try to watch it and maybe give some feedback even. And so bottom line is things have changed, right? But that core philosophy when it comes to college football recruiting, that they want to connect with high school coaches, and the relationships we have with college coaches matter, and are also make your son more accessible to those programs than some recruiting service. So keep that in mind. That's part of staying realistic as well, is that piece, that portion of the checklist for you. All right, then the last here is just encouraging you as a parent to stay positive. Okay, I've had some parents look at this realistic list, and then it's essentially just constant negative reinforcement, constant beating down the dream, constant, essentially telling their son, hey, my assessment, you're not going to be able to accomplish this anyway. So why put the time in? If this is a genuine passion and goal of your son's, no matter where he's at currently, I encourage you to stay positive with him. Encourage him to do all the things on his checklist, no matter what his current abilities are, if this is a genuine goal. All right. Number one, there's going to be great relational qualities there, right? Obviously for you and him as parent and son. But I'm also sharing this because of my own story. Okay. It says that here, that first checklist, that first check item under stay positive says this 14-year-old was not in the 6%. This 18-year-old was. I'm talking about myself, right? When I was 14 years old, in many aspects, I had no business even thinking that I could be or would be a top performer on any high school football field. All right. I was too small. I was too slow. The positions I played, those charts I showed you, it was like a mountain to climb. But there was something that was true of me, though, was that I had a deep passion for this game. I loved football. I loved playing football. No matter how well I performed at that point compared to my peers, I loved everything about it. And I loved the idea of busting my butt and working to overcome some of my limitations to see what I could accomplish. And so when I was 14 years old, all 6 foot of me and 115 pounds, and slow, I was definitely not somebody that would have been in that 6% at that point. But I was by the time I was 18 years old. Right? I developed. The work that I put in the weight room and on the track, through speed work, at the dinner table, in the classroom, I transformed myself. Right? I went from somebody that was, essentially being made fun of for even wanting to play football, to becoming an all-state player by my senior year, right? And being recruited to play college football and getting an opportunity to play college football for one of the best programs in the country, no matter what level. I got to play football for the winningest, football coach in college football history, as well as the other great coaches, I got to learn the game from. And so bottom line is I share that personally, even to say, make sure you help your son. If it's a genuine goal, if he has a passion like that and a willingness to work, even if he's having a hard time getting on the JV field at that point as a young guy, encourage that work. Encourage him to work hard academically. Encourage him to be faithful with the workouts. Encourage him to, make it a goal to get varsity action as a first step. And also encourage him that, 14 to 18 years old, there's a lot that can happen. And a lot of guys can become a different human, both physically, mentally, and spiritually, in that 4-year window. And so just stay positive, particularly if it's a passion, to help support that. And then that last piece is along those same lines is that, I've shared the percentages, but, there are 800 universities and colleges out there that offer football. And it's not D1 or bust. There's fantastic football played at the Division III level. I can speak to that personally. And, once again, not D1 or bust. A guy should not set a college football goal and then become depressed because he's not Division I. Right? Hey, if that's not the reality for me, if I don't have the film, if I don't have, quite that level of film, if I don't have quite the size, quite the speed, that doesn't mean that, there's not an opportunity out there for you, to make that happen, as a top performer on your high school team. And so that covers, those big four. Once again, those were the goals, the big goals when it came to, this webinar, this presentation. So what I do want to finish with is just some finer points, just a few items to close with. This will be a part of the presentation that, have some other links and things like that you can click through for more information. But some of those finer points and extra tips, is, how does Coach Cook know college football is my goal? And, that would be an example. So if I click on that, okay, so how to communicate the goals. Number one, tell me. Okay, schedule a meeting to talk about it. All right, each season I will ask regular varsity players, so I don't ask this to every player, because once again, standards for us as far as putting recruiting materials together, that is that profile standard. Okay, but I do each year, about halfway through the season, at the end of the season, ask some of those regular varsity players, if they're interested in college football. All right, because they may be playing well for us, but if college football is not a goal, I'm not going to waste their time. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste the college coach's time by putting a profile together for them if they have no interest in playing college football, if it's not a genuine goal. But if it is, respond to that. All right, if you receive that question, which once again means that you're a regular varsity player, respond to that. All right, and that's a way to let me know that. Create highlights. One thing we ask of our guys, and we do end up putting a recruiting profile together for you, is you need to have those highlights ready then. Okay, if I ask you if you're interested in college football and you're a top performer for us, and it comes time for me to put a link on your profile with your huddle highlights and you don't have that done, well, then you don't have a recruiting profile going out. All right. And so this is, kind of a first level of assessment or test, if you will, for these individuals of how serious they are about this. Right. If this is really a goal of yours, you'll have that highlight ready for me. And so we want to help you with it. There are those tools we provided. We can answer questions to help you get there. Okay. But, if a guy's serious about this, he'll get those highlights together and have that ready for me. All right. So I can paste the link into that recruiting profile. What these recruiting profiles look like, I'm going to click on this. All right, so this would be an example of, one of our seniors from last year, Ricky Levac. But these are, when I say a profile, we put a profile together for a guy. This is what we're talking about. Okay. So Ricky, is all conference, all district, is an all state player. We put some of his measurables, here as well, some of the statistical things. His grades are there. All right. So his overall GPA, other information. But once again, I can click this profile. Okay. And I go and I have highlights there for him. Okay. So Ricky's an example of a guy who did a great job with all this information, had these things ready, took it serious. All right. Was a goal of his. All right, and was always following through to make those things happen. Other extra things here, how to interact with college coaches. You can click on that. I'm not going to read through all these right now. Okay, but these are just basics. Once again, if you're going to meet with a college coach, all right, these are essentially like job interviews. All right, and you need to be ready for it. We even give some basic questions, okay, that you can have ready, because a coach is always going to ask you, do you have any questions for me? Okay, and it's never real impressive when a guy's like, no, not really. All right, so we give you some guidance here, when it comes to a player, asking a college coach particular questions, what that can look like. And just remember, you have no second chance to make a first impression. All right, and so if you get the privilege of interacting with a college coach, you need to keep these things in mind. Parents, we also give a list here as well for you about the type of questions that you can ask of a college coach when it comes to that. Okay, so I encourage you to look through that one as well. Increasingly, college coaches have maybe wanted to be able to text or reach out to players via Twitter. Now I know it's called X, but through a Twitter account, they can quickly access and get your film. They can text with you without having your phone number. And so this is something I learned from Jeff DeRuyter. I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. It's essentially used almost like a recruiting app by coaches. All right. So gentlemen, this shouldn't be start a Twitter account to keep it as your own personal social media. All right. Because that's another thing. These coaches can see who you follow and what type of things you like. And so I encourage guys, if you start a Twitter account, just use it for recruiting. Don't start following, your favorite music artists and things like that on there. Just use it to communicate with college coaches. And so if you don't have experience with Twitter, we do have a link here, kind of gives you a guide for how to appropriately set up a Twitter account for college recruiting. Something you need to do. Most college coaches will ask you for what your Twitter handle is. And so some of the basics are here, and you can also click this image to be able to get further detail on how to do that. And then the last thing we share here is just, how to make a college football decision. Okay, it's a huge decision for college in general, but if you're fortunate enough to have some options when it comes to college football, there's a lot of important things that factor into this. All right, number one, you need to pray consistently for guidance and direction. Right, the Lord has a will for you. Right, He has. If you have options, He can give you guidance and give you wisdom. You need to sit down and discuss it all with your parents. Okay, don't make this a quick thing or make it a thing that you never sit down and talk with your parents. Even if your parents have said, hey, buddy, this is your decision. We want you to come up with what your options are and let us know. Even if that's the case, intentionally ask, like, well, hey, I want to sit down, though, and talk through some of this with you, particularly with the football side. All right, you need to factor in the academic program. You need to factor in the campus culture. Okay, you notice I underline those. Okay, because the bottom line is a coach, that recruited you to come to a college, may not be there your whole career. Right? Opportunities happen. Things happen with life. Okay, and so, or even as far as playing football, you may not become the star of that college team. Okay, and so if you're having to grind through some things or struggle through some things on the football side, it needs to be a place that you feel very solid about their academic program for your major, what the campus culture is for you as a student. And then also consider, what's the culture of the football program? All right, what's my confidence in the program? Not just the individual coach that maybe recruited me, but that program as a whole. You need to evaluate, like, can I see myself in this program? Do I value what this university's football program is all about? All right, no matter who's involved, all right, player or coach. Some of the player and coach piece ties in maybe to the culture that's there, but just that program in general, your confidence in being a football player there. Where are you at with that? Okay, and so what we always coach our guys up on is, once you have decided, if you're a guy that's going to decide to commit somewhere to play college football, is to take 3 steps. Okay, this is very important to me because many of these college coaches we try to build great relationships with, and we value those relationships, right? And we're going to have those relationships with those college coaches for years to come, right? You're going to move on. You're going to go to college. You're going to play college football, hopefully have a great career, get a great degree, all right? And, you maybe only spend 4 years with that coach, right? Whereas we're going to have a relationship with that coach when it comes in recruiting our players. It's ongoing for years. And so this is very important to us. Essentially, it's asking you to respect this process to ensure that you're representing even CVCA football the best way possible with how you handle your business here. And so those 3 steps are, number 1 is, if you've decided where to commit to on a football commitment, call the coach that recruited you to let him know. Don't text him. Okay, don't text him that news. All right, call him. All right, if you text him, maybe it's to text him, hey, coach, can I set up a phone call with you? All right, but for you to be able to tell him, he's taken so much time to invest in you, to recruit you, okay, including visiting you personally and spending time with you and your family. Let him hear your voice. Okay, call him to inform you of your decision. All right, number 2 is call the other schools that you visited to inform them of your decision. Look, you're going to get mailings. You're going to get information if you're a type of player that's being recruited, probably from a lot of schools, right? And a lot of schools that maybe you're not even interested in. Okay, and you need to be honest with those programs along the way. Right? If you know out of the gate, like, hey, I'm not going to move that far away to go to college, as an example, like, just tell the coach that. Coach, hey, I really appreciate your interest, but yeah, me and my parents, I'm not going to move that far to come to college, but I do thank you for your interest. That coach is going to shake your hand or tell you thank you and move on. Okay, but what I'm talking about here is, you've been recruited and you actually made the decision to visit these schools, right? You showed up to their campus, for football visits. And that means they recruited you heavily. They invested a lot of time in you also. It's just that you're not going to go to their school. All right. We also want you to call those schools. All right. Coach that recruited you from the other schools, and it went as far as you went on a visit there. All right. We want you to call them as well. Inform them of your decision, even that it's not to go to their school. All right. Is have that courtesy, have that respect for the process to do that. And that's not just a respectful, godly thing to do. All right. It's something that pays off. All right. These coaches, they'll remember that. All right. Because a lot of guys operate like chumps. They operate, in ways that are very immature when it comes to some of this stuff. You'll stand out. Who knows? That could lead to an interview for you one day. Right? It could lead to some kind of job opportunity for you down the line, or some kind of reference, even though you didn't go to that school. But call those other schools that recruited you heavily, that you took the time to visit. Also give them a call. All right, then the third thing is call or tell in person your high school coach. So, if we've helped you through this process down the road, same type of thing, man. Say, give me a call, right? Or hey, stop by and see me in the weight room or in the office. Come tell me. I mean, there's nothing more exciting for us, for a guy that's being recruited, to see him make that decision and go on somewhere and fulfill his goal, if that was a goal of his. And so just like that college coach, just like you'd make their day talking to them, it's going to bring a lot of excitement to us and our program to hear that from you directly. So please tell me. Please tell me in person, or give me a call so we can celebrate that with you. Okay, and so all that to be said is the last note I have at the bottom just says, hey, do 1, 2, and 3 before you post anything online. Right? And I know for you guys, this would be the temptation, is to put together the perfect social media post to kind of let everybody know of your decision. But don't do that first. Right? Even if you work on that, even if you save the draft, to have it ready to send out, but send it out after you do 1, 2, and 3. All right. Don't let that coach that you're making a commitment to find out on social media. All right. Don't let the other coaches that you need to let know that you're not coming to their school, don't let them find that out on social media. All right. Same thing with us in our high school program here. Do 1, 2, and 3, and then, you know what, man, hit send. All right. Put it out there for the world to see, and let everybody else, your extended family, your friends, people out of state that let them celebrate with you. But advise you to do that after. All right, if that makes sense. All right, guys, so we're going to go ahead and stop there. Once again, I encourage you. You're going to have questions, especially if you take the time to dive a little deeper into some of the links and stuff we provided. But most of you that are listening to this within our program have my email address. All right, but in the event that you don't, or somebody else is taking a look at this and has any questions about this process, feel free to email me. You can also direct message me on Twitter or X. There's my handle for Twitter. It's Coach Nick Cook. You can find that account and then send me a direct message. Or feel free to call here at the school. Love talking about this stuff. Love equipping players. We love building relationships with college coaches. And so if you have any questions, all right, we need any help with any of this, feel free to make a phone call as well. But that's it. I mean, that's, once again, the goal here was to, provide some basic information, to go into a little bit of depth. And we're also, depending on which way you watch this, this will still be available to watch in sections if you don't want to go through the whole thing again. So feel free to click through it in that way. But if you're a player, particularly at CVCA, listening to this, and this is a goal of yours, man, get to work. Get to work. Make yourself recruitable academically. Be a great teammate. Do everything you can to help our team accomplish its goals. And if you're that type of player on film that can be recruited, it's all going to work out for you. All right. If you want to mess up this type of goal, mess up in the classroom. All right. Mess up in terms of being a team guy. All right. Mess up in terms of not giving great effort at all times on film. All right. Because the film doesn't lie. But if you do the opposite of those things, fellas, all right, if you bust your butt academically, make yourself very recruitable academically, make it easy on college coaches. All right. If you're a fantastic teammate here at CVCA, you check all those boxes. Right? You're faithful when you're in an off season with workout attendance. All right. You're a great teammate. You're working to make sure that we meet our goals as a team to help this football team win. And you have great film on top of that, where you're constantly, all right, playing with a motor and with great effort. You put all those things together, it's all going to work out, trust me. And once again, no matter what level of college football it is, okay, there's, there are great opportunities out there for a lot of different types of players that perform great on Friday nights, that are great teammates, and that do great in the classroom. All right, so if that's a goal of yours, that's how you need to go about it and get after it. Thanks for listening.